Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So I haven't done a 420 in a while, so let's do a 420. Hopefully, let me make sure I don't see myself. Yes, I see myself. I am doing something. Alright, I'm just going to assume that this is working because I'm going to be immensely optimistic. Yeah, it's working. Alright, so I haven't done a 420 in a while, so let's do a 420. Talking to Joe Firestone, we were having this conversation on the once and future left. I just think it sounds epic. Let's kind of king off everything. But, and I do kind of want to talk about it in a different way, though. Now, I'm going to start this in a weird place. And in my head, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, this is a weird place to start. But it's 420, so fuck it. I'll make the connection. Once and future left. The once and future left. So say, for instance, one day you were having a lucid dream. And in that lucid dream, you come across a being. That being, whatever that being is, so say he's in a robe or a cloak. And he tells you, he says, look, your environment, from our perspective, is not really real. You're, for the most part, this kind of digital thing. And that we're using digital purely from your own standpoint, because otherwise you couldn't understand what was taking place. The medium to which we create you allows us to craft you in a way that gives you this idea of being able to grow and being able to think. We've solved the riddle of consciousness, and we've created you. Now, you can either disbelieve that particular character, you can tell that character to go fuck himself. But say for the moment that that character gets across you that they're right, and he takes you from one body to the next, to the next, to the next, dropping you into 10 different lifetimes within the course of a few seconds. Kind of getting across to you, yes, this is true. This is true. We have an aspect of you that we can put into pretty much anywhere or do anything with. The way we evaluate you as a program is this combination between you and the environment that you're in to see what that environment is like. There's no such thing as being you that's not separate and distinct from your environment. That's the point I'm getting at. And they get across to you that, look, what we're telling you is true, or what I'm telling you is true. Technically, to us, you're not real in the same way that we're real. What does that do to a person? How does an individual deal with that information? Meaning, this other thing, and this thing that's for the most part God, for all intents and purposes, tells you, yes, you're something running within the substrate that we've created that allow us to create this particular universe. And by the way, many other universes. We have plenty of these. We run all sorts of simulations. We use the consciousness of these particular people over and over and over again and recycle them through the programs for whatever reasons. Now, this is earth-shattering information. This is mind-blowing if a person is getting this information and they're believing this. And again, you ask the question, what does it mean for the person if they're being told that? Now, for the moment, realize one point. You have no way to know, outside of it yourself, if anything else is real. No way. It would always and forever be a complete illusion to you. Anything that takes place within this particular context, all information outside of yourself is for the most part ambiguous. You have 5 senses in which filter the information that you're coming in, turning those into electrical impulses. We have no idea what this is. We have no idea what this is. So, assuming for the moment that that being does that, what does it do to the person? And now I'm asking, what does it do to the person? Because I'm trying to get at a point. The people who are getting that particular information also relays, or who's relaying information relays that, look, this is just the way consciousness is created through the multiverse. We have certain people who created us. We created you. It's just the way it goes. They're not better. You're still consciousness. Whatever the substrate is that they've created you with, it's still the same substrate. It's like it doesn't, nothing is fundamentally changed. I guess that's my point. You're still you. The world that you're dealing with is still the world that you're dealing with. The only thing that's changed is the information that you have. They're no better. They're just different. And how many of a reality spaces there are, they're just different. You're stuck with something, though. That's a lot of wood to chop, but I kind of want to get at this thing of value. Like, because there is, from our standpoint, at least from a legal standpoint, there is no God to give us value in this way, you're stuck with this question of what matters. We have an empty universe. That universe doesn't care. And if we're having political discourse, you can't bring in anything external from that universe anyway. So let's put that to the side for the moment. A collection of atoms have come together, and from that collection of atoms have merged consciousness. From these supposedly dead things, you have a consciousness. That consciousness looks out at the universe, it perceives it, it understands it to a certain degree, and it tries to understand it that much more. It's consciousness. Whatever that particular consciousness deems important is important. There's no God above to max that out. You and somebody else. Now, I'm not talking about lying or cheating or something like that. That particular idea of the universe should match up with the actual environment that the person is in. But I'm just saying the things that you give meaning to are purely on you. It's purely on you. What do you value? Now, society has built and pushed certain things in you from the time you were a child to growing up. So certain value systems that you have are somewhat cultural. Human beings are malleable. Human beings can be in all sorts of environments. This just so happens to be the one that you're in now. The reason why I'm saying it this way is what you give value to. How can I say this? What you give value to is a thing that will have value. I don't know another way to say it. It's like 1 equals 1. How you see yourself in this context is vitally important. How you see yourself is vitally important. What do you as a society believe should be the bottom rung of your society? Meaning, how do you believe that your society should be arranged? And what you realize is ultimately that's just what you believe your society should be arranged. There is no ultimate X or there's no ultimate Y. There's no God that's crafted your society in the way it's crafted. You can draft, you can change your society to whatever you want to change your society into. That all boils down to, how do we believe that we should live? What do we believe that we're worth? Yes, this is an unbridled humanistic point of view. Fair enough. Fair enough. Human beings are the most valuable thing that we have on this planet. You are infinitely valuable. We have no capacity to make another one of us. And the things that that particular one human being themselves can do, particularly when they get into a collective, is fucking amazing. It's fucking amazing. The idea that you would disenfranchise, you would hurt, you would injure, you would put in cages, something with this much potential is ghastly and terrifying. And it is a failure of our society that is the way our society has been evolved. When you're talking about war, when you're talking about prison, when you're talking about locking people up for drugs, when you're talking about structural violence, be it poverty, people not having access to the things that they need, the perspective of that society on the poor and the, in society itself, the bottom rungs. I'm just making this point. Those things aren't real. The status and all that stuff isn't real. The only thing that's real in that mix is the human being and the environment to which that human being is in. You have value. It's one thing for me to say it. It's another thing for you to know it from a flesh to bone level to a degree that it's just understood in your society. That the hegemonic view of that particular society is that human beings matter a hell of a lot more than profits. That's a sea change. That is not what we have. That is not what we have. Now, I'm making this point, and I know it's a lot of wood to chop, and it's going all through Robin Hood's barn. But ultimately, the value that you have, how you arrange yourself, all those things are purely determined just by you, your own conception. What do I think I'm worth? And not just think you're worth. It's not an intellectual exercise. It's a gut level exercise. I understand that I am worth this. I understand that human beings are worth this. I understand that my society should be crafted in a way to honor that particular worth. Yeah. That's somewhat, I don't think it's necessarily new agey, but because it's even skewing this idea of God in a sense. It's making the point that the left is purely driven by how the left sees itself. That's the point I'm trying to get at. What you think you're worth is vitally important to that process. Joe Firestone said yesterday, he was talking about Sanders, saying how Sanders looked like he gets it at a gut level, like this angry, snarling socialist, in this capitalistic system, shaking his fist at the dollar bill. Yeah, he gets it at a gut level. That's translated differently, meaning how you emote, how that stuff comes out of you is a little different than giving it kind of this kind of intellectual exercise of sorts. It's just a different thing. Yeah, you choose your society, either implicitly or explicitly. You choose your society. You choose that society to some degree based on what you think you're worth. That's what I'm getting at. That's why I'm chopping that much wood. I'm trying to nail down this thing that what you think you're worth, for the most part, is what you think you're worth. There's nothing else to give it value. It's just you. As a human being, it looks like that will be at the top of the fucking list. Looks like it will be at the top of the fucking list. Meaning, if they decide, hey, we need to do something for healthcare, it's not an ideological choice. It's a technical choice. Based on our current technological level, what is the best way to supply healthcare to everybody in the country? How do we do it at a cheap price? What about looking around the world, coming up with ideas, and how do we do it better? Obamacare is not a technological choice. Obamacare is an ideological choice based on this idea of markets being more important than people. My thesis in this is that human beings are infinitely valuable. That's my thesis. That's my point. That's my point. From a cosmic level, human beings are infinitely valuable. If human beings don't see themselves with that value, the value is not going to exist. You are what you believe you're worth. That's a mass, though. That needs to, how can I say this? That needs to be understood at a mass level. In the same way that there's a hegemonic view right now that for the most part you can't just keep somebody from coming into your store because they're a particular race. That's a hegemonic understood view. That's not something that's argued over. That's not something that's bitched about. That's not something that's complained about. In the same way that being sexist for the most part is frowned upon, in the same way that being racist is frowned upon, those things aren't argued. Those things are just understood. It's a hegemonic victory at that point. That's it's like a finality. Those things can change, yes. But for the time being, you have a hegemonic victory in those things. That's a win by the left. But those things are just understood at this point. That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at. What you believe you're worth needs to be understood in the same way that those things are understood. And until that's the case, it needs to be understood that way because it needs to be enacted into law. Meaning law in the society itself needs to conform around the individual and the person. That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at. People have this idea of two things. Oh, they're fry cooks. They shouldn't be worth that much. It's like, why not? What society do you want? That's a fundamental question. All right? In our society, we lurch through time in this way of all these special interests yanking and pulling at one another without necessarily trying to find, hey, what are we actually trying to hit? Where are we trying to go? What's the best way to get there? And I'm not talking about the plutocrats. I'm talking about the regular citizenry. This is a choice. This is a choice. And implicit in that choice is, how much do I believe I'm worth? You add all of that up. That's the society you get. Because otherwise, people will be outraged at anything else below what they think they're worth. In France, if you told France, or the people of France, that, look, we're going to put $50,000 of debt on your kid's head when they get out of school. And no, we're not going to have health care. And you're going to have to pay these high deductibles if you get sick. They would have shut that place down. They would have burnt France. They would have burned France to the ground. Or Paris to the ground. The expectations are different. They look at this and say, no, fuck that. As a society, we made the choice that we're going to cover those things. We're going to cover those things. Life should be lived. It shouldn't be in this kind of indebtedness. So yeah, what you believe you're worth. I'm always amazed that Americans are okay with not having health care. It blows me away. You have the capacity to do it. You just choose not to do it. So each and every person in the country that's in that 99 percentile is vulnerable. That seems insane to me. It seems insane. Yeah, the French ride over anything. Yeah, and they should. They should. Why not? What are you worth? What are you worth? What are you worth? You are worth what you believe you're worth. That's kind of my point. If your society believes that they're less than X, then the plutocrats who are arguing on the other side of that scale are going to give you less than X. They're going to give you what you believe you're worth. They're not going to give you a dime more. What do you believe you're worth as a society? The state apparatus, and currently, is not in your control. But under ideal circumstances, say for the moment that it was in your control. Say for the moment that you could choose the world that you wanted. That you could choose to arrange yourself in a way that you wanted. Trying to eliminate poverty, trying to eliminate this thing of environmental degradation. One thing after the next, whatever the problems are. It's like, what would you do? What would you do? Whatever that is, the state is supposed to be in your control, not theirs. And currently, people for the most part have taken their eyes off the ball, are forced into these jobs where they're working 50 hours a week, and don't necessarily have time to pay attention to politics. I can't necessarily blame them. That being said, politics will interact with them, whether they're paying attention to it or not. I just wish people thought higher of themselves. And I mean that in a collective way. This kind of empathetic way where it's understood that we don't let people go below a certain point or below a certain threshold. And kind of also understand that when people do go below that threshold, you will be affected by those people. You will be affected. It will adversely affect your society. Well, that is untrue. We can make other people in a variety of ways. Jamal, live, woohoo, oh, live, yeah. Humans are valuable, but I am not a humanist. That's fine. I don't look bad at you for not being a humanist. The individual does not choose society, and when humans get into the groups, they're even less rational than individuals. Yes, the mega groups we live in now have no precedent in history. Agreed. But so what? It doesn't have a precedent in history. It doesn't need a precedent. Are human beings rational creatures? And then rational creatures will come together and figure out how they want to live. You have divisions in your society built purely on cultural lines, purely to create divisions in your society. Yeah, people are malleable. I know I say it that way. I said it a lot, but it's true. What you are, in many respects, is what your society has crammed into you. People might have their own little distinct groups and niches and everything else, but you don't have necessarily free will. We need to make UBI max wage cap mainstream political talking points, universal health care, tuition-free college. We'll come to that. Yeah, you can't do that with the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party won't touch that. It won't touch it. They would not touch it. It's a winner politically, yes. The Democratic Party will not touch it. Yeah, they won't touch it. Garnome, the French riot over having fewer sick days per year. Yes, I love it. I love it. Because they're holding the line. They understand. If taking one thing, the plutocrats are going to claw back any and everything that they can. So yeah, they get more sick days. They're going to try to fight for those sick days. Right off the bat. I keep saying, the moment that you get a gain from the left, there's going to be some element the very next day trying to claw it back. Net neutrality. What, 2015, 2016? They're trying to claw it back. And they actually made clawback coming up in some vote that they're going to take. It amazes me that so many non-rich people identify as Republicans, yes, when it certainly doesn't represent small government. The tax plan tells you that. Freight Acts, yeah. Look, I'm African American. I think a lot of people who vote Republican do so for cultural reasons. Yes, I think they do it for race. I honestly do. I can come to no other conclusion. There are, and I'm not necessarily saying these people are overt racist. That's not what I'm saying at all. Far from it. I'm saying there is a cultural pull to the Republican Party for them. Something they identify as something I think that looks like them. Whereas the Democratic Party, there is a strong pull with this idea of identity. I think this emphasis on identity politics create two polar sides where these guys are fighting over stuff and there's a subtext of race involved. Yeah, it's part of this is identity politics. I mean, that's what we're talking about, the culprit in this. Blacks went to Democrats because ultimately Democrats were being left an opening for them to come to them. And you may say they did that for political reasons. I don't necessarily care whether it was political reasons or otherwise. I am glad they opened their arms to him. when Democrats focused on this idea of economics, you had a wide base at that point. You had workers, you had a wide base. They were representing the interests of a large demographic. When they went against their workers, or went against their base, when they repudiated labor, when they essentially stuck a knife in the back of labor and all this other stuff, you end up with a situation where they would say, we're a big tent. We're a big tent. All that means is we've allowed plutocrats in the tent. And we're going to call ourselves moderates. And those plutocrats have a certain interest, that interest being usually to attack labor. And that's exactly what took place. Here's a bunch of cash. You have a ton of cash. Go out and represent my interests. And the Democrat would go out and he would lie. He would lie. And he would lie. And he would attack the people who he said he was representing. Over and over again. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, but aside from cultural stuff, I just don't. People can't be that stupid. That's all. That's all I'm saying. They have to know that these guys are going after them. Now, some people do it for religious reasons. You have religious maniacs. You have the rich doing it because they're just rich fucks. They just want more. But yeah, you have some that are. Yeah, they've been fed a certain narrative, and I think they don't necessarily want to admit to themselves the reason why they're actually voting Republican. I'll say it that way. I'm going to be as polite as possible to say it that way. The importance of migrants in France is part of the larger initiative to drain power and energy from worker and populist movements. It's like putting two spiders in the same cage. Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I have two dogs. If I go to talk to one, the other one gets mad and goes and jumps the other dog. Under normal circumstances, they're perfectly loving. The moment you put in some level of competition, they go after each other. Human beings are the same way. We're the same way. Yeah, we're the same way. Video game Vision Quest. It's astonishing and horrifying that our brains are so efficient at coming up with the ways to classify people as worthless. Our own psychology is frequently our worst enemy. Yes, agreed. But I'm saying the way you perceive yourself in this too. Like, war is a choice at this point. Poverty is a choice. Hunger is a choice. Homelessness is a choice. Those things are choices. As a society, we have the technology to deal with all of our needs. We choose not to. We create the structure of profit that allows people to have a certain amount of status. And those people pay to have, everybody else kind of fall in line with this particular illusion. With these guys staying up top and controlling the apparatus itself. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Ultimately, what we're worth is what we believe we're worth. What are you willing to settle for in your particular society? And for whatever reason, we've taken on this idea of whatever this is. Things can be better. Things can be better. We choose these things. That's all I'm saying. Did you see images of conversations Jordan posted on his Twitter page? Oh, God. No, I haven't. I have not. It's still too easy for leaders to get the population to blame the enemy. Yes, agreed. Russia did it. Russia did it. Russia did it. At one point it was Vietnam. At one point it's North Korea. At one point it's blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And the public buys in, man. Hook, line, and sinker. They get terrified and they're willing to do anything. Throughout history, people who followed leaders might execute them at any moment. Yeah, pretty much. Borg 48. Did you see images of the conference? Oh, no, I didn't. Fredax. What is rational is not universally defined. True. Agreed. All those things are relative. People don't research or read or think for themselves, and they are fed limited range of perspectives in the mainstream media. You're a Democrat or Republican. Agreed. That's my point. You're given two ranges of thought and debate. One is batshit crazy, and the other one is just conservative. That's not a choice. It's like the system has been gamed. You don't have a real left party in the country. You have two right-wing parties. And ultimately the people, just by virtue of one party being batshit crazy, the vote for the rational party is essentially a vote for the conservative. It's like, yeah, they've trapped you in this way. You either take back the Democratic Party by breaking what's considered the Democratic Party, or you create something else. But you do not have a left vehicle in America. French is much smaller than us. They can't use the strategy here to keep people so broke, disconnected, and misinformed they can't act. Yes, agreed. I agree that the idea of what is rational is subjective. Agreed. Yeah, agreed. If you're doing something that's going to get you killed, even if you think is rational in a moment, ultimately it's not rational. You've just ended yourself. It's like existence is the test. The test is existence in and of itself. Were you able to persist yourself? No, we died because of climate change. We died because of some kind of global catastrophe. Well, you failed. You failed the test of existence. Yeah, Garden, agreed. What's rational is subjective. Gardenome, our size also affects our ability to unify because our greatest needs are different from one area to another. I get that point. What's needed in France, what's needed in California is different than what's needed in Ohio than what's needed in Virginia. That's fair. That's fair. I have certain baselines I've set for myself in regards to what is rational and what is not. Yeah, I mean, that stuff becomes contextual. You give yourself a workable point of view. Like, what's my point of view in the world? Where am I fixed? And, you see how that point of view lines up with actual reality. If it doesn't, you have a problem. I mean, even understanding, however, that reality for the most part is just narratives. It's just narratives. There is a reality there, but ultimately you're the one that's giving it meaning. So, all right, I'm going to end this because I'm starving. So I'm going to end this now. All right, guys, thank you for showing up. Let me know what you think about the value thing. Let me know what you think about the value thing. I think that's a big deal. I don't think people, I don't think they understand it. I don't think they even see it. I think it's somewhat invisible. They just think the world is the way the world is. And the world is not the way the world is. The world is different from each and every person. Each and every person gives it a certain amount of coloring. So certain people think certain things are terrible. Other people think they're awesome. Some people think things are terrifying. Other things, you guys are, losing it. I'm just saying people color the world in a particular way. So, yeah. Yeah, it's different for each person. Yeah, I'm tired. I haven't slept well. I did want to do this, though. I did want to do this one. I thought this one was interesting. I was also thinking about doing one for Blade Runner, but that would not be tonight. So, alright guys, I'm going to end this. If you guys enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. Thanks, guys.